we're going to do. Those are the only three methods. As a quick review, we had show message dialog that just shows a message. We had show confirm dialog that has the yes, no button options and the cancel one, but it returns an int. So then I can check what button was clicked by doing this nonsense. And then we had the show input dialog that actually lets them type a response instead of just clicking on yes or no. But whatever response they type in gets stored as a string. I stored it as value, but it gets stored as a string. So if we're, now maybe we're asking them what their name is, so we wouldn't have to convert it. If we're actually asking for a string, we would leave it alone like yellow snow. But if we're asking for a number value of some sort, we need to parse it. And we learned here how to parse it to an int or a double, and then we can do some checks with it. The problem here was this parsing thing, and it's really kind of cool, of what if it's not, we don't want an exception. We don't want something to blow up at runtime. So now we can learn how to catch exceptions. So I'm going to have you type, or we'll just watch this and you can take down notes. But if I say try, notice try shows up in a special color in BlueJ, which means it's a reserved word in Java, and it means exactly what it says. Try this. I'm going to start a block of code and say try $x equals parse dot nextInt. I want you to try that. I want you to try to convert this. I mean, Java kind of makes sense. Try to convert this. Now the problem is the parse double method. If we went and looked at it at the API, it says it throws an exception. And it throws a number format exception, and it'll tell you what type of exception it throws as well. It says it throws an exception if it can't convert this thing. So instead of an error message, it just actually blows up at runtime. But instead of it blowing up, I'd like to catch that exception. So notice, again, this is a try-catch series. You put try, you put your sexy braces, and you put in there what you want to try to do. And it might be 5 lines of code, 10 lines of code. Eventually, we'll have some more in there. We want to try something. And then if it throws an exception, instead of it, whatever line of code throws the exception, it'll skip everything else in the try and jump to the catch. So the way a try-catch works is it tries to do something, and if it can't, if an exception gets thrown, then it gets out of this block of code, so it skips the rest of this block. I know there's only one line in there, but it would jump to see if there's a catch. And if there's a catch, it'll do whatever's in that catch. Now, catch is very tricky, so I'm going to put the code for it, and then we'll talk about it. Number format exception. Cat. I don't even want it. Normally E is put there, but I'm just going to put that there. This acts as a method header. It's very weird. It's like a method right in the middle of, there's like a method called catch, and that's really what it's doing. It's a method called catch. And notice this, it accepts, the catch method will accept a number format exception that I'm going to call cat. I could have put whatever I wanted there. The idea is, telephone again, is we have this number format exception. We're just going to let that go and see if somebody can pick that up. And we get to type in whatever we want for what we want to call it. So think of this as a method header with method called catch. Well, then what would you do after a method header is you would actually put the code that you want to do. So if catch gets done, we're going to put the code in here of what we want it to do if it actually catches it. So instead of it blowing up, that's what the catch does. It catches the exception. I'm just going to say, maybe I just do this message dialog box again and say that was no good. So I'm going to copy this message dialog box here and say invalid input or something, or that was not a number, because they must not have typed in a number when they did this. So here it is, our first time we've ever done try catch. We talked about exceptions. We can also go look at what exception. There's lots of different types of exceptions that get thrown by. So if we went at the parse double method on the API, we would see that it does throw a number format exception. There are different types of exceptions. We've had array index out of bounds exceptions that you've seen before. Number format exceptions, a big one. Divide by zero, arithmetic exceptions, I believe. So there's lots of different types of exceptions. This is a number format one. So let's see if this works. We're going to compile this. Oh, this is awesome that we got this error message. It says it can't find the variable x. Why can it not find the variable x? Is because x was declared inside this try statement. So x is now only known to that little block of code. So how can I fix that? I can put double x up here. Don't put anything in it, and then just initialize it in there. So now it was declared at a more global level, so it can be used both inside and outside of that thing. So hopefully it'll say, oh, now it's worried it didn't get initialized. And the reason why it didn't get initialized is if this try statement blows up, maybe there'll be nothing in X, so I'll just give it a default value of 0, knowing that it will eventually change. And I'll compile this, and now it says it's okay. And there's a few errors with that right there, or logical things that we'll talk about, but let's see if this works. Remember, this is what we got before. We got this number format exception, so we're gonna, and those always show up on the terminal window. Enter amount of money, and I'm going to type in 300 again. And instead of it blowing up at runtime, it says that was not a number. Now it also says sorry in there because it continues on with the program, so I don't like the way I organize this. I really only want all of this to happen as well. You know, if it was able to continue on with this program. So I'm going to put this if statement in here, because now it'll only continue on if that try statement worked. And really all of this is in the try. It's very important to understand that all of this is in the try, but as soon as an exception gets thrown, which is right here as the exception would get thrown, it skips the rest of this and jumps to this. Now I would really like to make this a loop instead. So the only difference is once they type something in and it doesn't work, you know, that was not a number, I'd like them to be able to try again. So if I want them to be able to try again, maybe I say, you know, or when they click OK, it's just going to come back up and make them try again. It's going to make them do this again. So now I realize I want to loop up here. So if I want to loop up here, now we're going to talk about different types of loops. We always did a while loop. So we said while something is true, but then we always had to initialize that. So maybe I say, and I don't know if we've ever done this, Boolean, I don't even know, Boolean again. Equals, and we're going to make it equal true. We've never done that before. I don't know if we've created booleans, and then in here we could just say while again. Most of you put, you know, int again equals 1 here, and then say while again equals 1, which would work. We could make this an int instead of, and while again equals 1, but a lot of code will just talk about booleans. So while again is true, so it will get in here, and I want this to keep happening, so I'm going to block all of this. So here's my thing I want looped, and I want this to keep happening every time, you know, it didn't work. So I want it to keep happening until it actually worked. And if it actually worked, right in here we want to get out of this loop. So all I would have to do inside of here is make again equal to false. And what happens is, you know, if it tries this and this works, so then it continues on through there, it'll make again equal to false. It won't catch anything. It'll go back up, and again is now false, so it will skip all of this, and the program will be over. But if I type something in here that's not a double, and then I try to do this, it'll skip this if statement, and this again equals false. Remember, as soon as an exception gets thrown, it jumps out of there. It'll say that was not a number. It'll hit this sexy brace. It'll go back up and check, is again still equal to true, and it is, because again only gets set equal to false inside this try at the end of the try statement. So it must get all the way to the end of the try statement to be false, which means I'm out of it. So this is like a validating input right now. We just learned how to validate input from GUIs using try catches with exceptions. I mean, it's craziness, but hopefully that all makes sense to you. Let's see if this works. If it doesn't, we'll have to come back and clean it up. But let's give it a whirl. And we're hoping that it continues to say, and it lets me try again. Enter an amount of money, so I say 3. It says that was not a number, so now it says enter an amount of money again. If I say, you know, 2 as a number, that was not a number, and it makes me keep going until I actually type in a number, and I type in 45, and it says sorry because I don't have a lot of money. That's what we decided to put as our message, but we could put anything we want. That is a lot of information about some really cool things. A try-catch series. Try, just a reserved word in Java, sexy brace. You put in there what you want to try, and even though all of this stuff from here on here has no chance of throwing the exception, it's still in the try part, because we want all of that to be skipped if this threw an exception. If that threw an exception, the way a try catch works is it jumps until it finds a catch. It keeps falling until it finds a catch. And here's the catch. And the thing to remember about catches is catches act like method headers. So there's like a method called catch that we put what we want to accept and then what we want to call that thing. And really we never use cat. And just to show you what we could do here, I guess some really cool things here is I could put cat here, and it would make me cry if you actually understood what that would do. Cat is the name of an object of the number format exception class. Exceptions really are classes. So this is really an object of the number format exception class. And if I embed an object of the number format exception class in a place that a string should go, then it's going to automatically call the toString method. So what this does is call the toString method of this exception class. And the toString method has a default error message. So before we were saying that wasn't good. If I compile this now, this is getting a little bit higher level, but it's really kind of cool if you go look at the API. So I'm going to type in, to again as a word, and it says, instead of me saying, that was not a number, it actually puts down what normally shows up on that exception screen, because the toString method of that number format exception class, the toString method returns the error message, but not as an exception. It's not blowing it up. It returns it as a string, and then I decided to put it on this message here. So I got $8, it says, I'm sorry. So if we go look at that again, and if I were to put anything here, if I were to put X here, I can't use X, I already have X. If I would put W there, then I would put W here. Remember, this is the same thing as putting W.toString, just that it's implicitly calling the toString method. So there must be a toString method of the number format exception class that returns that error message, or the default error message that we saw. Last thing I want to show you, and I know this is a lot of information, is if you don't know what kind of exception is going to get thrown, and you just want to catch any type of exception in the world, the exceptions are ranked in a hierarchy. So if I just put exception there, exception is the highest level of exceptions. Everything below it is at least that. This is very similar to me writing object here. If I say object, that means it'll accept any object. But if I put exception there, it'll accept any type of exception, so it'll still work. So if you don't know what type of exception to catch, and you just want to catch every single exception possible, then you can just put exception there, and this will work the same way it was before. So that was a lot of information. Hopefully you took down those notes. Maybe you want to pause it. I'm going to go back and put this as number format exception. And then this is fine right here, or maybe even better, so you realize that you can put your own error message. That was not a number. Was the error message we decided to go with, and maybe even try again. So you can put your own error message in here, or you could just use the default one, calling the toString method of this class, using that as the handle, w.toString. Real cool things there. Hopefully that kind of cleared up some try-catch. I'd like you to play with that and start validating your input on these GUIs.